lot of cools in the flower. The flower is not going to look exact because I don't want it to be so. I want it to be a little brighter, being that it's on a girl. But for the most part, that's what we're going off of. So I'm just using the side of the 9 right there, just getting that black line right there. I could have done it with the 5, but I wanted to look realistic. And if I pulled out a 5, I probably could have got the same exact line, but I can just turn my mag to the side without switching off to a different machine and keep going from where I'm at. Again, black with a 30% fade off, and coming through right after with some of that plum, just getting right off that 30%. Really starting to get some life in this flower. I'm really excited, motivated about it. Definitely something that I want to be doing right now, and I think it helps when you go into anything and you're excited about it and can't wait to see what it looks like. You're definitely going to see some of your best work then. If you're not feeling it, or if you start feeling it, like you're going and 2 or 3 hours into it, you need a break, then take that break. Go get something to eat, take a walk, drink some water, whatever you have to do. But get your mind right while you're tattooing it. It really, you're not going to be on top of your game unless you're, thinking about being on top of your game. And that's no matter how great of an artist you are. Everybody has their off days or their off times. So if you start feeling like you're losing it a little bit, step back. Take a break, look at it, figure out the things that you need to do, that changes and stuff, and get on it. Filling in some of those pollen sacs with a dark brown that I have. Notice as I'm going, we're starting to lose some of our stencil to the left, but not enough that I have to freak out right now. Luckily we're moving right to left in the counterclockwise direction, so I'm still getting the things that we need to see. The next piece over, which is why we go right to left, because I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed, I would suggest going left to right. I probably could have come through at the very start of this piece and done a little bit of line work, or blood shaded, blood lined a couple things, but I've just found my style. I just do a really really dark, intricate stencil, and then I go from there. And I never really had too many problems. I keep a pen next to my palette in case I need to pull it out, or a skin graft or something. And that way, if I start losing it, I can just stop for a second and draw back on it and get back to the area, and I don't have to worry about it too much. Still using the 9, bringing in some of those blues up top. Or is it, no, that's some periwinkle actually. Now we're getting through some of that medium blue right off that 30% of that periwinkle, just layering right over it. Building a little bit of depth with some dark blue there now. Just a little hint. Coming right off of that with a little bit of red. Now I'm starting again with a little bit of flesh tone. There's a light flesh tone, so then I can just build off of. Kind of just trapping in the shape of that stem coming off the polenia again. Just bringing some orange into it now. And I'm just barely breaking the skin here, just introducing a little bit of purple to contrast right next to the orange we brought in. Tying in a little bit of that blue that was coming off the top right into that purplish skin tone look. Again, the reason why I try to get most of my pieces done, I'd say 80 to 90% of the time before I jump to the next, is because, we're not working on paper, we're working on people. And, the whatever I can do to keep my client from moving around or jumping, you see, she's feeling that a little bit. The more I can do, the better. Because, my style of tattooing, I can't just sit here and do an outline because I don't run an outline when I'm doing realism. I do different tones and different shades that create an outline or a lot of like background noise. So the way I get through it is I just go piece by piece, working my way from right to left. So kind of like how I started with the bottom behind the flower, and now I'm working right to left through the flower, and then I'm gonna jump up to the girl and work right to left. I mean, of course, you're gonna feel little bits here and there that are really close to the image that we just finished, but I mean, it's a tattoo. You're supposed to feel a little bit of it, and she's gonna get through it. But if you have a client that can't sit through it, then you're only as good as what they can sit through. So I try to do everything that I can possibly to make my clients feel comfortable with the less pain as possible, which is why I'm going through and I'm just getting both or all the petals as I go to about 90% without the white. And as I'm going, I'm checking them. You see me bouncing back and forth. Might need a little bit of green here, a little bit of different tones here and there, but for the most part, we're getting them to to where I'm comfortable with, and I can move on to the next one. All right, we're starting with the next petal. I'm getting there with this some blood red. It's a nice dark valued red. I'm just using the edge of that 9 right there on the edge between those two petals and just separating, getting them, a lot of separation just without a line, without any really dark tone. You can definitely see where the next petal comes off out of the flower, the center of it. Coming through with some more of that tangerine. Really, really bright, vibrant color. I love this color. It's almost like a red mixed with like a burnt orange, but I just found it easier. The more colors that I have, the more availability I have while I'm tattooing, and I don't have to think too much about how I'm going to make this tone, how am I going to make this tone. It's right there. If you need a little tone darker, then come in with a darker value color, and if you need it a little lighter, just get in there with a little flesh tone or some white. And I mean, it's so much easier just to buy a wider palette of ink and get busy. Starting to introduce some of the cooler tones on the edges right there, some of that icy blue. Just barely breaking the skin right now. Not spending too much time. Just moving kind of fast. We've been doing a lot of layering on this petal right here. So I'm just kind of like picture just putting down a foundation, and I'm gonna start building on top of it. Starting to push some of that purple in there now. Getting a nice smooth transition from blue to red. Blue and red make purple. So of course I'm going to layer a little bit of purple in there just to kind of smooth that out in the center. This is what I was talking about when I'm talking about layering. We're getting some really really nice blends, and this is this flower is going to be amazing when we're done. I can already tell. I hope that you're enjoying what you're watching and learning how you can just brush on the skin. A lot of people would think that when they're doing color that you just have to smash it in there and push so much harder. And I used to think that too. And my tattoos would come back and they wouldn't be as vibrant. There'd be scar tissue, and I was wondering why. And the truth is, yeah, you need to fully saturate the piece and you need to fill it in like almost like you would like a solid black piece. But at the same time, you don't have to you don't have to push harder. You can just make a couple of extra passes as as you're like pushing a little lighter and get really 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 nice blends. So I'm introducing some golden yellow right up here on top. I know there's gonna be a lot of white in this petal right here, so definitely getting a lot of contrast just in this piece of the tattoo alone. Remember, once I come through with all my white, the tattoo's really gonna have a real serious highlight. So until then, it's gonna look, nice and bright, but it's not gonna be as bright as when I do the whites at the very end. And that's just something you have to, just trust yourself as you go on. If you're a beginning tattoo artist, if you've been tattooing for a few years, then you should already know that, nothing comes together until about the last, 10 minutes of a tattoo, and then it all starts to make sense. You just have to know that you're following your stencil or the basic idea in your head, and leave it alone until you get back over here with the highlights at the end, and all just balance itself out. Getting there with a little bit of plum, just get some depth coming off behind that one petal. Back in with some of that butterscotch. Yeah, I gave that piece over there about 7 8 minutes to relax, and I looked back and seen, okay, it needs a little bit of warm tones right here, nothing too bright, so I'm using a nice muted tone, but uh, it definitely did the trick. Starting to build off some of that background blue between the petals and the bud that goes up. Not going through with the concentrate at all. Just building up with the medium blue. And if I need to add some dark blues on the edge or something just to accent more of a shadow or anything, then I could do that later. But you know as we're moving up, I'm just trying to get lighter and lighter with everything. So the bottom of it has a lot of black and blue concentrates. As we're moving up, we're going to be pushing a little bit more of the mid blue, and then when we get to the top, the girl's going to be blue, so we'll probably switch over to like I don't know, maybe like a pinkish or something to really contrast against her. So I got that to about 30%, and I'm gonna get right back over there with that light blue and just get right back into that 30%, get a really smooth blend, no dots, and another just getting from dark to light without seeing any dots or anything that's gonna trying to make this look like an art piece instead of looking just like an old fashioned tattoo. Nice smooth blend right there. Let's wipe this down, see what we look like so far. The flower's really, really popping out. Definitely the focus of the eye. The leaves and the stem on the bottom are definitely, they're there. You see them, but it's not the first thing you see. It's kind of more like a faint image. And that's what we were talking about earlier. How we want to kind of look like a photograph. And I think we've got what we're looking for right there. Coming through with some of that Georgia peach, just off the edge of that 9 right there. You can see I'm just kind of running lines with it. Looking real nice. There it is. All right, getting in there with some of that dollar green right there. It's the muted green, just to push off the edge right there. Give it a little bit of shadowing. That's one of those colors that works really well. Dipping into the ink cap and then into the rinse cup. Now, if you ask me how I made that petal, what colors I used, I'd look at it and tell you, well, I used about 15 different colors, and that's really like, that's the way when you're doing like a kind of fantasy style color tattoo like this with all the warms and cools, that that's the only way to create something like this is by layering, not pushing too hard on the skin, and just pushing color over color, just trying to get that nice medium between the warms and the cools. Just going over a little bit of that red, making it a little bit more vibrant. You see, when I first did it, it looked really, really bright, and then once I introduced all the other different layers that I did, kind of muted it out. So we're going through and just bringing in some more of those reds, and now we're just coming through with the side of the mag, just trying to get the center of that fold in this petal. Just coming through with a little bit of black right there, just give some depth to those stems coming out of the polenia, center of the wild orchid we're doing. Doing a lot of magging on the corners right there, just getting some tight areas. Just kind of brushing in that black, not spending too much time on it. Now getting right back in there with that plum, right over where we just did. That little layer of black, that little gray that we just put in, is just going to give it one tone darker, as you can see. Introducing another color, some red, right off that plum. This is pretty much what color is. You're starting from your darks and you're working your lighter tones in as you go. Starting to build some of that fold right there, just using the side of the mag with that red. Again, you can see that I'm not spending a lot of time on the skin. I'm just kind of brushing it in. Don't want to get it to the point where if I make another pass that it does damage it, or just layering as we go, just different colors. Look at that petal that we just did before. I mean, all the different contrast with the warms into the cools, back into the warms on the edge. I mean, some really nice blending right there. And we just did it back and forth, working on some warms, working on some cools, and back and forth. Now we're coming through with some flamingo pink, which is a really vibrant reddish hot pink look. Again, keep in mind it might look a little mudded up right now. We don't have our highlight in yet, and this is This is the way color looks until you get that white in there. And I'll be brushing a lot of white in with either the 9 or the 15 later, and doing a lot with the 5 liner, and really bringing it to life. We got 3 caps of white lined up for this piece. Coming off with some orange now, right off of that flamingo pink that we just introduced. Still using the 9 mag, which is, like I said, it's an 11 bug pin, but being that the diameter of the needles is, a quarter skinnier, we're using, it fits into a 9 mag tube. Just brushing in some of that golden yellow in the areas that we left open for it. Already, just off those little pieces of yellow we put in, it already really warmed up the piece. Now we're going to start introducing some of our cools just right off the edge right there. A little bit of that lime green just to start bringing out our cools to the edge. And we'll get those down, and we'll get in the center right there and kind of get that nice medium and blend that out again like we've been talking about this whole day. Some of that avocado grain, you could tell the ink cap's starting to get dried up. So luckily this is our last petal, otherwise I'd either stop and pull out another cap or throw some witch hazel on top and mix it up a little bit. But being that this is our last petal, I think we'll be able to work through it without having to set up another cap or mess with it at all. Coming through with a little bit of background coloring now. Some of that medium blue, just off the edge, and we'll work that off into some light blue. Just really, instead of it really keeps the piece soft too. That there's no lines. Don't get me wrong. There are pieces that do need lines, and there probably will be a couple on here. You've seen how I've been turning the mag on its side and kind of acting like it was a liner just to work on certain areas. But if you really want to keep a piece really soft and kind of artsy looking, then it's just like like on the black and gray video where I did the portrait. It's you don't want to run a bunch of line work because it's just going to flatten the image. It's a really hard, bold look, and that's definitely not what we're looking for today. Starting to bring some of that icy blue into the cool part of this petal. Back in with that golden yellow. Start working that edge. Really contrasts nice against that blue. Like, you wouldn't be able to see that yellow right there as bright. I mean, you'd be able to see it a little bit, but you wouldn't be able to see it as bright as it is without the cool tones around it, like the blue below it and the little bit of bluish green that we already pumped into the flower. And now we're just coming through a little bit more of that golden yellow, just mixing it in.